Welcome to this explainer. You know, when we hear about psychedelics, we usually think about the mystical stories, right? The visual distortions, the cosmic realizations, all that stuff. But today, we're diving way past that. We're actually going to look at something incredibly profound, the highly mechanical, microscopic reality of how these substances physically rewire the adult brain. So let's jump right in, because what science is revealing right now, it literally flips the script on how we understand healing.
Plunging right into our central mystery here, we kind of need to completely reframe our understanding of what these medicines are actually doing. For decades, the standard story was all about the experience itself, what happens during those few hours. But what if the hallucination is merely a fleeting side effect? The science is now showing us that the main event is actually a much deeper structural rewiring that begins during the dose, sure, but persists long after the drug leaves your system.
Section 1. Reopening windows, the critical period. To really grasp how this rewiring works, we first have to step back a bit. We need to understand how the brain learns, and crucially, why it eventually stops. Think about the absolutely effortless way an infant absorbs language, or how young animals just instantly learn social cues. This happens because their young brain has this open window of heightened plasticity. It's basically an evolutionary feature designed to rapidly absorb the environment. But biology deliberately slams this window shut as we grow up.
And that brings us to a really stark contrast. While the young brain is wide open to recording new patterns, the adult brain actively installs what scientists call molecular brakes. These take the form of actual physical structures, like perineuronal nets that wrap around neurons and literally lock circuits into place. Now, this gives the adult brain a rigid efficiency, which is usually a really good thing. But unfortunately, this exact same mechanism can trap us in maladaptive loops. We're talking things like severe depression, addiction, or PTSD. The brain gets locked into a pattern it just can no longer update or escape from.
Section 2. Rewiring hardware. Changing the brain.
So what is truly fascinating is what happens to those very rigid, locked-in adult circuits when psychedelics enter the system. Back in 2018, researchers made a massive breakthrough. They discovered that compounds like psilocybin, LSD, and DMT act as what they coined psychoplastogens. Basically, this means they possess the profound, rapid ability to physically regrow the brain's hardware. So the absolute crucial point here is that they aren't just altering serotonin levels to, temporarily boost your mood. They are actually rebuilding the physical structures that chronic stress and depression physically erode away.
And get this, they watched it happen in real time. Microscopic 2-photon imaging of living brains showed a stunning sequence. Within just 24 hours of a single psilocybin dose, literal new dendritic spines, those are the little branches that connect neurons, they just sprouted. And it gets even better. Researchers checked back a whole month later, and those new connections remained completely intact. They were actively repairing the physical erosion caused by prior trauma. Incredible, right?
Fast forward to 2023, and scientists actually found the molecular key unlocking all this growth. They discovered that psychedelics bind directly to the brain's master growth receptor, which is known as TrkB. But the scale of this is shocking. They bind a staggering 1,000 times more tightly than common everyday antidepressants do. 1,000 times.
And this brilliantly illustrates a fundamental shift in our understanding. For a really long time, we all thought the trip and the healing were the exact same mechanism. But it turns out the physical rewiring of the brain through that TrkB receptor and the subjective hallucinatory trip through the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor, they actually travel on two completely different molecular tracks in the brain. They're entirely distinct.
Section 3. Plasticity timeline. How long it lasts.
So, if these compounds pry the brain's developmental window back open, exactly how long does it stay shapeable? A landmark 2023 study by Dolen mapped this out, and the results are pretty incredible. The duration the brain remains open scales perfectly with the drug used. We're looking at a 48-hour open window for ketamine, which then extends to about 2 weeks for psilocybin and MDMA. Then you have 3 weeks for LSD and a massive 4-week window for ibogaine, meaning for up to a month, the adult brain is essentially returned to a childhood state of profound learning capacity.
Section 4. Role of integration. The window is neutral.
Now pay close attention, because this is the absolute most crucial turning point of our whole explainer. An open brain is not automatically a healing brain. Removing the molecular brakes doesn't magically steer the car, right? It just makes the steering wheel incredibly responsive. A chemically opened critical period simply amplifies whatever the brain encounters next.
If it encounters a supportive, structured environment, it encodes that as deep healing. But if it encounters something frightening or unsupported, it can encode that just as durably as harm. And that is exactly why the drug itself is only half the treatment. The actual medicine is the entire rigorous clinical protocol. We're talking the strict screening, the supervised preparation, a safely held container during the dose, and most importantly, the weeks of structured integration afterwards. Integration is that specific period with a newly plastic, impressionable brain literally records its environment and solidifies its new wiring.
Section 5. No hallucinations, healing without trips.
So if the profound neuroplasticity and the rigorous therapy are doing all the heavy lifting, well, it sparks a massive debate. Knowing that the hallucination and the brain growth happen on those separate molecular tracks we talked about, scientists are now successfully engineering compounds like TBG. TBG is a non-hallucinogenic analog of ibogaine. In rodent studies, it perfectly engages the brain's growth machinery to reduce addiction behaviors, but, and here's the kicker, it completely removes the hallucinogenic experience. All the structural plasticity, absolutely zero trip.
Naturally, this discovery has effectively split the scientific and medical field right down the middle into two distinct camps. On one side, you have folks who firmly believe the subjective, profound emotional breakthrough of a trip is biologically required to make the therapy stick. On the exact opposite side, you have those who look at the data and see the trip as an expensive, risky side effect. To them, it's a massive hurdle that prevents these potentially life-saving treatments from scaling up to the millions of people who desperately need them.
Ultimately, whether the trip stays or goes, the paradigm has irrevocably shifted here. The future of psychiatry lies not just in the chemicals that unlock the mind, but in the profound responsibility of what we write onto the brain while the window is open. When we finally master the ability to give the rigid adult brain back its childhood plasticity, what will we choose to teach it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped illuminate the incredible mechanics beneath the medicine.